So the initial fork offerings are upon us. You've probably seen the various offshoots of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Diamond, Super Bitcoin, uh, Bitcoin Super, Super, whatever it is. And most of these are emanating out of China or other places where ICOs have been banned or are otherwise difficult for various reasons to occur. But the initial fork offering to a large extent is really just an ICO in disguise if you consider it. So there's typically a pre-mine or an insta-mine where the initial developer coins in this case are unfairly allocated, right? And typically did defray or pay for in the future certain development costs like listing on exchanges or whatnot. So in this case, what you have, especially with the Bitcoin offshoots, is these insta-mine or pre-mined allocations that are going to unknown sources, typically exchanges or what have you. And then you have this hard fork that occurs right away. And so if I'm a holder of the insta-mine pre-mined coins, all of a sudden I go from 10 to what have you, 100, whatever the number is. So it's very similar to the equity world, especially the microcap equity world, where this is like notorious, but it's much like a stock split where you have 100 shares and you do a forward stock split of 10 shares for each one share, and you wind up with 1,000 shares, or vice versa. We have a reverse stock split where you go from 100 shares down to one share, right? So these hard fork, initial fork offerings, whatever you want to call them, they really don't create value in the sense that there's money being raised and the price of the coin is organically increasing, right? Like that is what drives Bitcoin, right? I mean, just like it would drive any sort of equity security or even commodities, where demand drives price. In this case, the initial fork offering is really just trying to end run some prohibition, in my opinion, for what it's worth, with respect to the ICO. And what they're doing is simply pre-mining, allocating the coins to the people that need to pay, and then immediately doing the fork. And these people profit off the fork and presumably can trade out of their position and earn their profit that way, or vice versa. So it's a bit duplicitous. I think if you really look into the individuals who are doing these initial fork offerings, they have a bit of a track record in terms of ICOs. I believe the one individual in China raised $5 million without a white paper. I mean, who did that? Like, who were you giving money to? But that's sort of where this is coming from. So without throwing water on the whole thing, it's worth at least considering the source and the reason for it, right? And why there's this inherent reason to do these offshoots of Bitcoin when you've got so many alternatives, right? And like, why do we need an alternative to Ethereum? Why do we have to do a fork at these like low numbers? It's really just sort of superfluous and kind of crazy. But I think for what it seems to be the reason, it's just a way to end run prohibitions or issues with doing an ICO. And for all intents and purposes, it's legal, right? It'd be legal here in the United States. It'd be legal arguably in China, right? But it's definitely check the source, right? I think like there's a machination behind it, and if you're the one left holding the bag coming in after the fact, then there could be some repercussion to it in the sense that you may lose a little bit of money. But that's just my thoughts. So initial fork offerings, just when you thought people couldn't come up with something else, they've done it again. So I'm Adam Tracy. Check me out, bitcoin-lawyer.org. Later.